The next step in terms of globalization is to examine this idea of an emerging popular culture, or, most of the time people simply refer to it as pop culture, shorthand. Now, the specific origins are murky, but most scholars agree that what we now call popular culture arose during the Industrial Revolution. So, this new middle class and the working classes are transitioning to new urban environments that are drastically different than the agrarian lives that they left behind. So, they began to create their own culture that they could share with their coworkers. So, they could share it with each other, and it would distinguish them both from their bosses and the agrarian culture of their parents, who, in many instances, were still concentrated in rural areas. Now, this is a significant alteration from most of human history, wherein most people were beholden to their local areas or a specific family unit, neither of which was conducive to what we refer to as a collective identity. This continued into the 20th century, but it wasn't until after World War II that a true global popular culture began. And by this time, technological advancements had led to increased health, improvements in education and literacy, and a new mass media. Printing presses led to an increase in newspapers, which were obviously mass distributed. Then you have the rise of magazines, then the radio, followed by TV, and then the internet and social media. Realistically speaking, advancements in mass media have had the largest influence on a new popular culture. Even though the specifics are debated, it's generally agreed that pop culture includes items that reference immediate and contemporary relevance to the lives of many. Now, due to the rise of social media and the advancement of technology, items related to pop culture are very fluid, and they can disappear just as quickly as they appear. These items allow masses of people to share a common identity and really allow the masses to unite because acceptable forms of behavior are reinforced. It also allows individuals to, quote, enhance prestige in their peer groups, which is why pop culture is something that's critical to youth. And it's also why some in older generations really strive to understand it. Now, pop culture encourages change and innovation, which separates it from what's referred to as folk culture. Folk culture reinforces traditional norms, things like fairy tales. But pop culture is also different than high culture. High culture is commonly seen as more reserved for elites, like fine arts or the opera, although high culture can actually seep into popular culture. Now, in today's world, the most common forms of pop culture are the ones that can use media to allow society to consume them. When it comes to sports, World Cup in soccer stands out as a prime example. In addition to the Olympics, and somewhat to a lesser extent, the Super Bowl. Now, keep in mind that American football might not necessarily be associated with global popular culture, but the Super Bowl as an event really is. Commerce is even global and conducted through sites such as eBay. Stations such as the BBC have a global reach, and even brands like Coca-Cola are known worldwide. Often, elements of popular culture achieve the most success when they allow for what we might call participation, or they might fuse different cultural elements together. American Idol is a prime example of this because they initially allowed for viewers to phone in their votes, and eventually they text in or use social media to vote. So other shows like, Dancing with the Stars, The Masked Singer, things like that followed suit. During the Arab Spring of 2010 and 2011, Twitter was used extensively to coordinate resistance efforts and inform the world of the latest developments. And we even see that celebrities use multiple social media outlets to develop what they refer to as their brand and try and remain relevant in pop culture, which again, pop culture is constantly changing and evolving, especially on a global scale, but it still stands to reason that some brands remain iconic. Just do it. The Nike swoosh, that's a symbol that's recognized worldwide, as are the iconic global arches of McDonald's.